Thank you.
Symposium number 2. So we have a couple of well, maybe just Cynthia and Meg. Yeah, a couple extra folks. So to remind you that anybody can come to these. And yeah, that's right. So if you have any colleagues, it's professionally oriented, so I want to get to the theory behind it. But anybody that you want to can come.
How much would you charge for them to come? Nothing?
Nothing. They can tell them $100 donation in BC.
Yes.
Or 5 to 100. But we won't stop them there.
Yeah.
So let's do names so that you.
So I'm Cynthia.
Kim. Robbie.
Meg.
Michelle.
Diane.
Nicole. Tony.
Lenny.
Julie. Okay, I'm so excited that I get to teach this material because, well, it's pretty darn radical, and I've always loved that. Fun, and I also think it's groundbreaking. So I think that the tools you're learning here, I don't think anybody else really knows about them yet. And they're powerful, and they're effective, and you can take them where you want to take them. So especially if you are stepping into some sort of coach or therapist role, this is putting the power in your hands as well as the hands of your clients. So yay, so thanks for being here, and let's go. Because today we get to talk about some of my favorite stuff and things that the students have heard. So Cynthia, so mostly we have students, practicum students, raise your hands, and you know Robbie is one of our faculty and mainstays here. Meg is Shelley's wife, and I try to keep saying that word so I get used to it, but also stepping in, you want to say?
Oh,
more?
just stepping into grad school.
Stepping into grad school.
That's cool. Where?
At Regis.
Right on. Right on.
Yeah. All right, is everyone Naropa who's on the practicum? Okay.
And Cynthia is
Stepping into coaching?
yeah,
Awesome.
through
Cool.
the Hendricks
Through
channel.
Hendricks, yeah.
Mhm.
Cool.
LAT with the Hendricks.
Yeah, and so some of the students, you might, you know, I've talked about the map a lot, but now you're going to get the inside story of the map, like really, so that you can start to learn it. Oh, and I didn't get you your own personal maps, but I have them.
You've given them.
Oh, you have them
Sure.
before. Okay, so
Sure.
Meg, do you have your own personal map? You don't need it right now, but we'll get it for you.
I don't
Cynthia,
have my
too.
own
Yeah.
personal one.
All right, well, we'll get you a copy.
It's
so
not.
that you
It's
can
not
have
in the
this.
frame, Robbie.
Okay. So from the last time, just a couple review items to remind you. There is no out there. That the world is what you're making it. Like you're constructing, I'm constructing the world. Even to the point of my visual field, like if I had never had vision before, I would not be able to figure out what the heck's going on out there. That's interesting to me. I just wouldn't be able to tell Michelle from a blob of whatever.
Right.
So that it's all coming from me. It's all coming from me. You would be upside down, right? There's all of these things that I'm doing with my brain. And if you start to understand the power of that I'm constantly constructing reality. And this isn't just from a new age, we create our reality perspective. It's we are friggin' creating our reality. Because we have to have some way to predict all of, up to now, the 60 years for me of, what a carpet is supposed to do, right? I had to learn about that. So now whatever I learned, it might be way different from your version of a carpet. So then we've got these competing, or, you know, probably pretty good overlap, but to understand what that means is, you know, that I'm walking around in the world imposing my beliefs just so I can predict. So otherwise I have to like relearn a carpet every time, like, right? It's so inefficient. I have to be able to predict, but my predictions, as much as they support me, get in my way. Because all I have about the future is from my past. Like, that's such an important understanding, like, the limitation of, if I'm walking around in my world, that's what I've got. I can predict from my past. And especially if I'm triggered, I'm way gonna be predicting from my past, because my survival brain is gonna be like, "Brr, brr, brr. Don't you remember? Danger, danger." And it's not gonna give me time to think about it, it's just gonna say, this is true. And that's what you are grappling with yourself, but with your clients, who are walking in and saying, this is the truth. And we are very convincing. We're very convincing storytellers. The truth is, my boyfriend is abusive. Right? The truth is, my mother was really mean to me growing up. And together, collectively, we, as therapists, I think, have stepped into that as if it's the truth.
Would you say that, because, you know, obviously, like the carpet, we learned to see it this way too. Is it possible that even the way we interpret, I triggered it when you said that, like the way we interpret reality and how people relate to each other and what this means, that all that is just as much part, like it's actually all just, I know that's obvious on one level, but we don't
But
really think
get
of it
to
like
what that really means.
Right.
And especially when people get caught in that.
Right.
Because of state-dependent learning, some of those psychological concepts some of you learned, the way I learned it was Psych 101. If you go to a psych class at 8 in the morning and you're stoned, be sure that when you take the test, it's at 8 in the morning and you're stoned, because that's the state in which you learned the information. So now that's the state in which you're going to remember the information. So then when we are in a certain state, we believe ourselves, right? I mean, just watch yourself. I'll use this example. I'll just give you prep about my reactor brain moment yesterday, where I was in Flatiron and I was trying to leave, and there were people there with the laptop, and there was a cord that I didn't see, and I tripped over the cord, which I pulled it out. In that moment, I totally, like, I was fine, like, la 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 la, I believed that reality, and then the next second, it was, these fuckers. Right? And I had a moment with the guy, because I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and I'm pausing, which was good, and he said, "Don't worry about it." And I thought,
You worry about it.
I don't know exactly what I said, but some version of what I'm thinking is about how that cord was in my way and I tripped over it, right? Because that was my reality. Why was the cord there? Why did you put it there? Didn't you see somebody could trip over the cord? Right? So two different realities. He's like, "Oh, glad you didn't ruin my laptop."
Right.
Yeah. And I was very in the grip of that, because if somebody had stepped in the middle and said, "Yeah, well, what happened here?" I would say, "Well, he left his cord there." Because that was what was most true for me, is if that damn cord hadn't been there, I wouldn't have tripped on it, right?
Right.
So over and over and over, that's what we're bringing in as our version of reality. So there is no there out there. And so then what do you do about that? Well, find your body, come back in here, so that you don't have to worry so much about out there. Because what's true in here is as true as it gets. So, I was adrenalized, I was stepping forward, I felt angry, underneath that I felt scared, right? That I could swear to. Okay, so, internet. There's a wonderful book, which I did not bring my copy yet, called Power versus Force.
Oh, power
Yes,
versus force.
Power versus Force. I hear people who exclaimed.
I
You
read
explained.
it years ago. I read some of his
Okay.
things years ago.
David Hawkins, Power versus Force.
David Hawkins, why don't I remember that name? You read something else?
Well, there's Stephen
No.
Hawking, people get
Oh,
confused
that's-
between him,
That's
so
what I'm thinking.
so I'll write down,
Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawking, okay, Hawking, I think of Hawking. David Hawkins,
David Hawkins.
And it's power versus force. Now, I've been very fascinated by power for a long time, and so like power, and so totally changed my thinking about how things work, so my work that I'm going to describe to you is based on his. Give him full credit and accolades. He was brilliant. He died a couple years ago. So my inner map is based on his map of consciousness. So you should go look it up. His is much more complicated. There's several layers. There's all kinds of different things. He's using different words to some degree. And so I developed mine from his because I wanted a map for myself. Like, I want to be able to access what's really happening at any given moment. For me, this is the equivalent of a mall map. You are here. Because if I know where I am, I can start to, well, there's a couple of things that happen. One is I'm noticing, which is already a shift move. Noticing what's going on internally versus just, see, it's true. If you put your damn cord there, it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Noticing, oh, right now I'm somewhere here is already going to start to shift my brain. There's a part of my brain, someday I'll find it again, I don't know what it is, that it's back here somewhere, that's looking at what's going on and is already starting to shift me into out of reactive brain into creative brain. So where are you is a place to start. Why else do I love this? Because we create from our state. So just like in flat iron coffee, I was in one state at one moment generating, oh, it's a beautiful day, and then it took me that much time to shift my state into, why'd you put your friggin' thing there? Right? That was that fast. So now I'm in a totally different state, and I'm in a state of fight and want to have a fight, and so no, it wasn't. There was no freeze or flee. Yeah. So it was that fast, and now I was creating a different reality from my state. So over and over and over again, as therapists, as professionals, to understand that's what people are bringing in. They are creating from their state, and they are going to convince you that it's the truth. Because under the right circumstances, I could have sat one of you down and said, you know what just happened? There's this guy sitting at the table, and he put his freaking, like, can you believe it? You've had that happen before, haven't you? Where people just put their cords and aren't people irresponsible? Right, and I can just totally pull you in. And what I'm doing, of course, is hypnotizing you into my reality. I'm giving you details. I'm giving you the story that's pretty compelling. I'm in a state that's already going to be contagious to you. You're going to kind of start to feel and attune to my state. And so now we have this shared reality. Yeah, those people. So be aware of that, because your clients are great at it, because that's what's going on for them, is that they are creating from their state so much that that's how they see reality. And they believe themselves. There's another very interesting piece of this that, noticing Tanya's voice, that if I'm in a certain state, think of it as a frequency or as a broadcast channel, that I'm going to start to actually create that reality with you. So that if I'm telling Nicole about this, and can you believe those people, and then what's your impulse? Yeah, Nicole, these guys, they're just sitting around with their laptops. So what's your impulse in that? How would you want to interact with me? You don't have to worry about if it's the right one.
What would I naturally want to say?
Yeah, what would you naturally want to say?
Well, like, what state were you in?
Oh, that's good. that's the
that's
conscious.
Like actually what I want to say.
Okay, great.
Like, what was going
Julie,
on with you?
Yeah, good. And if you weren't, somebody wasn't so conscious
I
as
can do
Nicole,
that.
okay, great.
I'd be more- I'd probably honestly, most likely be more like, oh, that really, God, that really sucks, I hate it. I mean, I don't know, but hate it. I hate it when people do that.
When people do that,
you know,
those
and
people,
Maybe
yeah.
I'd bring up like a car that honked at me, like, who knows. I thought of that,
It
as
just-
you were telling it, it was funny, I actually did think of a car honking at me. So I was kind of.
Those honker people, yeah, those honker.
There's a green with you and fun.
Yeah, like, okay, yeah, right?
Yeah.
So look at our politics, you know, that's what we're
Right.
doing.
Yes.
Now, one of you might be like, Julie, well, what was your state? Might also be like, hey, why are you being such a jerk right now? Right? So that you might start to argue with my state, and then I can argue back with you. But what I've done probably is succeeded in triggering you into a certain state,
Mm.
and now we're gonna argue over whose state is accurate.
That's what I do sometimes. No, I like if someone does it and they do that kind of thing all the time, it will bring me into this kind of like, I won't say it, but I will think, you're always like that, kind of. So it triggered me into their state.
Julie, I want to say that when you were telling me, my first question initially was, what I would ask my client is, are you feeling like you're moving too quickly?
So you might check in with, or ask them to check in with their
Yes.
inner self.
Yeah, like
Great.
that's what came in, because when I trip on things, when things get in
Oh,
my
yeah.
way,
So what was up with you? Mm-hmm.
that's what happens to me. Is usually it's a message of like, I need to slow down, or I'm moving too quickly.
So you're
That's what I look
offering
at.
for them to be conscious. And that's interesting because, well, we haven't gotten, because my question, the hanging question will be, where are you on the map when you ask that question? Because I may have succeeded in triggering you. Because let's pause here and understand how this works. We are designed to be triggered by each other.
Mirror neurons.
We are mirror neurons, and here's another amazing book, General Theory of Love.
Oh, yeah.
Love that book. It's time for me to read it
I don't
again.
have any bandwidth to read anything.
You just, what you do is you buy them
For the
from
summer.
the
I
summer.
just
Someday,
multitask
write it
and
down,
read in the tub.
whatever, or you absorb it from me. Mind meld.
Who's it by?
I don't know, 3 psychiatrists.
Okay.
I can never remember all their names. So they talk about how our limbic system is an open loop. So our other systems, like imagine if your blood was an open loop.
I wouldn't be here.
Okay.
Right, or respirations or hormones, I don't know if that's true. Seems like maybe every other system in the body is a closed loop. But the limbic system is an open loop. In other words, in order to be connected, in contact, like I can tune into Monique, I can start to feel what's happening for you maybe, right, whatever that means. But I'm being impacted by you and you're being impacted by me. That's how it's supposed to work, so that we have contact and connection and empathy. So we're designed for that. So that's the good news, but it's kind of the hard part, because if I'm in reactive brain or in creative brain, I mean it's both, you're gonna be impacted by that. It's contagious. So this all starts coming together to make it kind of challenging, but also really interesting as you're interfacing with it, as you're jumping into it. Could somebody close the door for that side too? I appreciate that. Yes.
So the thing is to note is not to get pulled into someone else's limbic loop. So you do something, by going back inside yourself, you kind of disrupt that looping and disrupt that.
Potentially. So or I can tune in and loop in with you, like being like what Nicole just did, like, oh, because you could probably feel my, that you can feel what's going on with me, and then also have kind of a foot out here somewhere that says, but maybe that's not the only possibility.
So if you're with a client, so if you're with a client, you want to actually loop in with them, but if you were helping a client understand, if you were working with a couple, they might not want to be looping together.
It's probably not gonna be so either or. We practice the loop of awareness in
Yeah.
ILC, and so we can do that right now, so,
Mhm.
I'll demonstrate, you can do it with me. So my attention is here in my body, even though I'm looking at you, and now my attention is over there,
Mhm.
Lenny's body. I'll bring it back here, over there, so both are going on, and then I can go out here.
Mhm.
So I can have my awareness get so expanded that I can hold both. So it's being able to choose
Yeah.
where my attention is.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So as the therapist, it's both. Like, I wanna be able to stay here, but I wanna know and empathize what's happening over there
Mhm.
with what's happening. And I wanna be able to hold the whole. This, this is something to develop, it's a muscle.
Yeah.
Over time.
That's helpful for you to have just demonstrated that.
And as part of a couple too. Somebody,
Yeah.
you're feeling great, your partner comes in, they're all upset about something. That's one of those grinding moments of, well, I was feeling so good, and now you're, whoa, why do you have to be such a downer, that kind of feeling.
Mhm.
But to know, to be able to loop in, like, oh, I feel what that feels like, and have a foot out here, and you know what? So that you're not pulled in necessarily in a way that you can't get out of. Alrighty,
Can I, like,
yes.
and also, like, just to see if I'm hearing this the way you meant it. So, in a way, like, if I'm, like you're saying that, and I'm getting pulled into your trigger, or whatever we call it, trigger, your state, then it would be valid to just be aware, oh, I'm in that state too. Like, to me, that would feel like where the most learning would come, instead of trying not to be in that state.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally, just to be aware.
Yeah.
Yes, awareness.
Yeah, because a part of the muscle is then choice.
Right. Consciousness is the awareness. Oh, this is what's happening.
Right.
Instead of, I'm just in it.
Right.
Oh, this is what's happening, and then, yes, then what do I want to have
Right.
happen?
Because like in some ways, my theory of relationship is, big part of the problem is that we're, I don't know if this problem's not the right word, but like I feel this way that like, we like try not to be in certain states, or we think that some are bad, or we think that one's in it, so I'm not gonna be, and there's something about just being in all these states with awareness that would really help.
What we resist persists.
Right.
So letting ourselves go in with it.
And find out what that means.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, try it out, be in it.
Right,
And
with
have-
awareness.
It's easier to do that if you have some skill at getting out of it.
Yeah, yeah, because if you're like,
Which is-
if you're just like in
right?
it, then you're just in it, you know.
Yeah, so that's basically, if you boil this down, this is what we're doing in ILC, over and over and over. Go in it, get out of it, go in it, get out of it. Be in it, aware of it, okay, can I get out of it? So really building those muscles.
Like not being afraid of these things.
Not being afraid of the states. The states are just what it is to be human and mammalian. I'm realizing I made myself a note of this, and so I want to plant this seed, going back to, my moment, I guess. Thank goodness that was him. Now I'm going to be all grateful to that guy. Except I have no idea who he was because I had no cognitions available to me at that moment. Thoughts anchor and feelings flow. That's one of those, put it in your back of your pocket. Don't put it in your back pocket, it could be in the back of your back pocket if you want. But thoughts anchor, feelings flow. So why do people have mental illness or mental illness issues or whatever you call it? Now, not always, but let's just say some percentage, it's because they have anchored themselves into that state.
And are almost actually are in relationship with those thoughts as if they're like concrete, tangible, or touchable, or
Yeah.
like like sort of an absolute, like,
Their belief.
Yeah.
Their
Yeah.
commitment.
It's just the truth. The truth is life is not worth living.
right.
Huh.
The truth is, the world is a scary place.
I just had a visual of that movie, What Dreams May Come.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful movie.
Where he's in he's like in that world.
Uh-huh. It goes down and
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen this movie, it's a beautiful movie. Robin Williams and Shelley Duvall.
Yeah.
And she commits suicide, and he decides he misses her so much he's gonna go find her, and then at some point they're just hanging out together in this sort of gloomy, horrible state of
Yeah.
consciousness, because that's how he can stay joined with her.
Yeah.
It's a great scene.
Think of how like that, a thought could anchor you in a place like that.
Yeah, and it does, right?
Absolutely.
You've experienced hell.
Mhm.
And that's what it is. Being so stuck in that level of consciousness and believing yourself so much, right? Because we're great storytellers.
Mhm.
Great storytellers. Now, does that mean there isn't hell? I don't know. Like, right. But for this moment, in terms of how we get so stuck, we're getting stuck because of our thoughts and the stories we're telling. Great hypnotherapists, self-hypnosis people. And the path out is through the feelings. Feelings get things moving again.
Mhm.
So I think that we're learning, and those of you in my Gestalt class can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're learning that those are called interjects. Do you know that term?
Yes,
Yeah?
yes, that's actually a traditional psychoanalytic term.
Okay, we're learning that in our Gestalt class.
Oh, very good. Yes. You have to say it more like introject.
Interjects.
Oh, good, exactly, very good.
Yeah, we haven't learned the way out yet.
And then just
Maybe
have
next
a
week.
relationship with things as if they're real, anchored in belief.
Good night.
Well, I lost you at we get stuck, and then you said hypnosis something.
Yeah, how we.
Oh, yeah, we get stuck, and so Diane's bringing in this great word,
Yeah,
interject.
that's where my mind was.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, an interject, well, you might have a more coherent definition than mine, which is pulling it out from my past, is a picture that I have inside of me of how other people are. I have an interject of my father, interject of my mother, that's as if they're real people living inside of me. So I pulled them into me.
Yeah.
And then I'm referring back to those places as if it's the truth.
So how are you relating it to hypnosis?
That when I'm in that, yes, I just toss that word in there.
You said
Being,
self-hypnosis.
as natural born storytellers, really, I think we're so
Yeah.
good at it. So I'll tell you about my mother, Lenny. My mother, she was alcoholic and she was addicted to prescription drugs, and she really was hard to be around. She's very judgmental, very critical, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, is that true? I don't know. So Len, I'm gonna tell you about my mother. My mother, one of my favorite memories, I was a kid and she was a Girl Scout leader. And so she and her friend, they decided to be Girl Scout leaders, so we were playing softball, and my mother doesn't know how, she's a terrible athlete. So she got up and she was swinging this bat, and she started running around the bases, and she was laughing and laughing, and she said, "I'm gonna wet my pants." She's laughing around, and everybody's like laughing. She was so loving, and she was so amazing. I learned my best self, really, from her. Right? So I told you a different story,
Yeah.
which is true.
Yeah.
Well, I can get stuck in the one, which I did for years, and I'd be convincing about it. Is that who my mother is? No. If you met her and you had no connection to me, you'd have your own experience. But as a baby on up, that was what I was taking in and then describing internally. Oh, this is true. This is true.
And finding.
That's what I mean by hypnosis.
Oh.
Like adding the detail, adding the sensory detail. If I was gonna do, like you could probably see kind of running around the bases. Could you see that?
Mhm.
I could have said it was a beautiful sunny day. It was warm outside. This fall, so you could hear the crunch of the leaves as we're running around. It was kind of a little cool, right? So I'm that's what we do.
And reinforcing it.
Over and over, going back and visiting that.
Mm-hmm.
So know that and understand you're as good as anybody at it. Use that skill. Use that skill. Because even words like pain is right, takes you, well, I'm looking at you because of chronic pain, right?
Mhm.
Chronic pain, that phrase takes you somewhere. It's a whole construct.
Mhm.
Thoughts anchor you into that construct.
Mhm.
To get out of that, feelings. Feelings are energy, emotions, energy and motion.
I definitely get conceptually why, but like, how does that work? I know we're doing this and you probably see all the time, but like, how do you practically, if you're anchored in a thought, use a feeling to get out of it?
Oh.
Last week.
Pardon?
Everything we did last week. Last
Oh.
time.
Yeah, the SEW. Meg watched the video.
Oh, I didn't know what we did last week. Okay. I was really confused. I'm like,
Sorry.
Gotcha.
But will you hold that thought? I mean, will you ask me
I will
again
hold
in
that
a little
thought.
bit?
Yes.
Well, you know, who knows if you remember or not, but if you, I would love to address that from having told you a few
Okay.
other things.
Yes.
Okay, so coming back to the map. You see it okay? You see it? Yeah?
I mean, it's got a glare, but I know it.
Okay, you know
I
it well
can't see
then.
it, but
You
I'll-
can't see it, all
I
right,
will
we
lean.
need this to be on a rotating
But
little
then
thing.
you can't see it.
Like on a little model
I can make it.
platform, like at the auto shows, you know? We need some half-dressed somebody to be standing up here to.
Some Price is Right.
Yeah, that's right.
That's really
Nice.
Whoever they are, we can use them right now. Yeah,
That would be
well, how
really-
about if I back it up, that might help too.
Yeah, we get out of the glare. Maybe. Yeah, that's good.
I could do the
Curtains. Well, if you want the color.
I'm not
Great.
seeing
Having
another
our-
one of these.
So orienting you from the beginning to this, as if you've never seen it before. Vertical line, most constricted, most contracted. As you're going up the line, it's literally getting more and more expanded. In other words, here, there's very little energy, to the point of no energy moving in death, but as soon as you get to shame, there's a little bit. But when people are in shame, so you could try it yourselves, like, you hate yourself and feel terrible, and that's what shame feels like. It's a frozen state. There's very little movement. You get up to guilt, and there's a little bit more movement happening. And you continue up the line, and we're gonna go through these states one by one, because there's some really cool stuff in these states. But to know, as you're coming up, there's more energy, so there's a whole lot more energy and anger, right? The energy's moving now, but all of this is below the line. So you hear people talking about being below the line or being above the line. So this is the part of you are here. Are you below the line? Are you above the line? But to also understand, it isn't up, down, it's in, out. Okay? Very little movement of energy, more and more movement of energy. So start to get that in your body more and more. More out, I'll pass our surrounding part. It's really fun. All those people at Tony Robbins, because they were throwing this all around, it's great. Having it on my head. It's very fun. So more energy, less energy. That's the only difference, okay? It isn't better, worse. You get up above the line, this isn't better than this. But what it does do, it is generative, and this pulls energy. It's energy draining. It uses up energy. So these are negative emotions because they use up energy. That's the only reason, in my opinion, that they're negative. There's nothing wrong with feeling sad or mad or scared. It just uses up energy. Coming up here generates energy. Literally, once we are in these states, we're adding energy to our body. Now, there's some other either ors, or this is a that's. Bruce Lipton's work, this is stress brain. This is healthy rebuilding. Either or, you're in one or the other. Now that's kind of a stunner, because this is hard on people, to be in stress brain all the time, to be in survival brain all the time. It uses up energy, and you're marinating in adrenaline, cortisol, all this crappy stuff.
Ugh.
Now, it gets you moving. Like, it gets you to fight or to flee or to freeze. Going more into reactive brain, let's see. But if you're up here, you're generating and you're rebuilding your cells. So to understand, as you are in different environments, to start to understand the costs of those environments. So if you're in a very stressful environment, and that's just how it is, and life is just that way, and you have to work at this crappy job, well, you're paying a much bigger price than just making, low wages or whatever, because you don't have control over your environment, et cetera, et cetera. You're in reactive brain. So when I'm sitting with people and they're like, well, that's, this often happens. People in their 30s, couples, they come in, they're so tired and miserable, and they're working jobs they don't like. I tell them this is what people in our 50s and 60s don't tell you, is that we have hoped you'll stay in these awful jobs because we don't want to do them anymore. We pay you like crap and then say this is what life is, but that's not true. It's bad for you. Because up here, now look, there's all this great rebuilding, healthy stuff, and this is good for you. So to choose your environments and understand the price that you're paying. There's also another either or is, so power, force. Power, force, those are David Hawkins' words. So that if I'm in power, things are easy, things are moving easily. If I'm in force, I am in resistance. So if I'm in force, if I'm below the line, my life looks like, can I use your hand? This. It just does, because that's how it works, right? But life is really hard. That's just how it is. I try hard, but then my partner makes things really difficult for me because it's really, she's such a pain, right? All that stuff. So all that's happened is I'm below the line, and now I'm connected to you in such a way that that's what our life feels like. It's just hard all the time. Life is miserable. Doesn't feel good. I've been sick all the time. So either or. Power is ease. Power is ease and flow. Power is magic. Power is when the thing happens and you don't know how it happens. Right? How did that happen? Like, that's crazy. How did that happen? Well, from up here, because there's room for it to happen. And I'm not in struggle with somebody, because if I'm here, Radna, your hand please. If I'm here, right? Look what I'm not attuned to it at all. Like, I'm not even going to see the magic out here, because like, you're always like this. Why can't you stop it? You're just like my mother, right? That's where my focus is. And here's another either or. We've talked a little bit about narrow focus versus open focus. Let's practice right now. Narrow focus is what we mostly do. Like, what's wrong? Let's look at the carpet. This is my favorite thing to do. What's wrong with the carpet? Oh my God, like, who didn't pick that shit up? And where is that?
Those are my shoes.
Yeah, right. And the thing about what's wrong is there's always something else that's wrong, because once you're in narrow focus, that's what narrow focus is looking for. Like, if there was a big explosion out here, we'd go, right? We'd all orient to it. We'd narrow our focus. What happened? What's wrong? What do we do? Very smart of reactive brain. That's what we got to do. Like, but the problem is, if I'm walking around like this, what's wrong? Oh, I'll tell you what's wrong with you, Aradhana. If you just would stop doing that, right? That's what I'm looking for. And then we don't even know we're in narrow focus. We just get caught in it. Partly because in our culture it's highly valued.
It's addictive.
And it's addictive because it's got that little adrenaline.
Yeah, I just found a quote recently that said something like, if you're always looking for where you don't belong, you'll always find it.
Yeah.
Or something like
Yeah,
that.
and if you're always looking for what's wrong, you will always find
Yeah.
it. I realized that with my partner years ago, as kind of one of those days of thinking about what was wrong with her. And I kept thinking of the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, I thought, this doesn't seem to be ending. Is there
It's
really
like
that
a
much
chain,
wrong?
kind of like a chain reaction.
Kinda, yeah, it's because there's always something else that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But the cool thing here is, the opposite is true too.
Right.
So let's go to open focus. So here's a different way, so get your hands here. And now you're gonna, don't move your head or your eyes, but start fluttering, and let these come up. This is a little cross-eyed here. Ooh, and continue to watch your hands fluttering as they come out. Try to relax a little bit. Now we can talk about what's right. Like those leaves out there, the tree, and how the colors are all changing. There's some green and some yellow, and we can look at May. Oh, May's so beautiful. Right, we can look at what's right. From open focus, that's what our attention is on.
Mm-hmm.
So narrow focus, open focus.
So is it, of course the objective is to live above the line for as much time as possible, but just with the scenario you just described about like if there's an explosion, right, and we all quick and turn and so good of reactive brain for us to be able to narrow focus. So is it that the below the line, I don't want to say like serve us, but in some, there's like for a moment it has a purpose and a function as long as we don't stay there and can go from here to here quickly.
Absolutely.
Is that?
That's beautiful summary. Because reactive brain is what saved me when I didn't fall on my face.
Sure, right.
Because I didn't have to think, okay, you are falling now, and now you should be sure. It's like I didn't. Instead, my body just did it for me, and I didn't fall at all.
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely, we would be dead without reactive brain.
And as it pertains to emotions, though, I mean, like sometimes it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like as you've described it on the map.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Good segue.
No, I'm asking.
Well, I'm going to give you more information,
Oh, okay.
and then we'll come back to it.
Okay.
So you'll need your handouts, but first you need your hands.
Oh.
So Daniel Siegel, hands out, we're going to do the brain. Just to remind you. So put your thumbs in, fingers over. This. This is what happens when you sit next to where I'm working. Okay. See, this is Radna's brain.
Oh, what's your
You see it?
brain?
Okay, kind of fits in there.
Yeah.
So there's your brain. This is the triune brain theory, and now Lisa Feldman Barrett has a whole thing about this, but she says it's so oversimplified. Well, yeah. So anyway, this is kind of oversimplified. It's not really a brain, did you? So two hemispheres, if you open it. So here's the dissected view. So we've got this nice gray matter neocortex. This is creative brain. All this stuff, like when we're relaxed, we can access. But then here, limbic system, emotional brain, hypothalamus, amygdala, all that stuff in there. That's way in there. Back here, brainstem, cerebellum, spine. So the theory is the neocortex happened on top of the emotional brain, on top of the basic survival brain, reptilian, mammalian, etc. Because mammals all have neocortex. I don't know if that's true of every mammal. I have no idea. But it seems like it. Because what mammals figured out that reptiles didn't was about how to connect, how to have a relationship.
Because reptiles will eat their young. They
Because
will
reptiles will eat their young.
Isn't there one in between reptiles and?
There's
We
a
can't
story.
go around eating our young.
Well, we could.
You never know.
We'd cut down the population.
Well, I mean, sorry to get political about this, but just with the healthcare stuff that just came out this morning, like,
Oh, God.
that's what I used. There's,
I'm a little blind.
our government is reptilian. We're eating the weak and the
Yeah.
young.
Well, that would be one story. Could be your story. That's fine
It's
with
my
me.
current story.
It's your current story.
That makes
For
me
sure.
angry, that's propelling me into action.
For sure, great,
All right.
good. As long as it does, because often reactive brain, if you look at resist, often reactive brain creates a lot of like movement around the triangle, but not necessarily creative steps. Not necessarily. I don't know, you know.
No,
But
it's,
just watch for that.
it's true. We used
Yeah.
to, me and my ex-partner had this plan, we wanted to do groups for protest, for, political, people that have causes, what do they call it? Because they're so often in reactive brain, and then they don't accomplish what they.
A lot of use of adrenaline, if the burnout is so high here because people are in stress brain all the time. And we know
It
what
actually
happens in stress
damages
brain.
your brain if you're chronically in that for too long. I just found an article.
Passing.
Well, there you go, exactly.
So I'm sorry, could I
Yes,
ask again?
please.
So is that like maybe a good example of, so it's appropriate in a moment to have, appropriate, that's so subjective, to be in reactive brain, you get angry. I'm really angry about this, but then with that anger, you do something with it, you can expand and move up the line as opposed to staying in it. But having that anger initially served you because you had the skills to move from it quickly as opposed to stay in it. It's not, I don't know, I guess.
It's a great
Yeah.
question how to access that kind of energy.
Yeah,
And I would say better, worse, meh. Just is.
just curious.
What's
Okay.
true, what's most true, and then how to tap that energy.
Okay.
And that's certainly one way for a lot of people to get going. I mean, look at all the people that are politically involved.
Yeah.
So I think that's, Jettison folks, is it true for you? Like, good
Right,
question.
right.
So I have a question. I'm like totally below the line now. I'm losing my health insurance.
Great, where are you?
I'm agitated and angry.
Okay, so notice that.
And no, I'm afraid and I'm in fear and I'm agitated.
Great.
And I'm mild and I'm getting angry.
Yeah.
And
What's the story you're telling?
I'm losing my health insurance.
Right.
I just got a letter saying that they aren't offering me my insurance plan
Uh-huh.
in 2 months,
Uh-huh.
and I'm shaking.
Yeah.
And now there's not going to be, and I have a subsidy which allows me to have this plan.
Uh-huh.
So I'm freaking out.
So you're freaking out. Of course, a different time I'd have you run around the room, right?
Yeah. So what's
you
a
can
shift
freak out.
move? I need a shift.
Quick! How's shift move? Well,
Shift
you-
move, so
you started with noticing where you are.
Yeah, so the bridge is a shift move to get above the line.
Yes,
So it could be SEW,
it could.
or it could be so it's noticing
Mm-hmm.
where you're at.
Yeah, notice your
So I'm shaking.
sensations.
So it's SEW.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, I got it.
cool. Plus the willingness, that's over here.
Yeah.
Willingness to shift and see self as creator. Because remember where we started? There is no there out there. You're
yeah,
creating your
alright.
whole experience. But you got the letter. Looks like it's somebody else. Doesn't it?
Well, I find it hard to believe that I created Trump, but
That's a whole, that's over happy hour. We'll have that conversation. Margaritas are necessary.
but I got the picture. So thank
Yeah,
you.
Yeah, right, because whatever your whole body has, all of your history up to this moment.
Yeah.
Gets you to create shaking, anger, fear. Somebody else was like, what's insurance? I never even heard of that.
And the thing just popped into my head, maybe I won't need it.
Sha-sha. Oh, so she's starting to shift.
Yeah,
Because that was a creative thought,
yeah.
right? But we could sit here all the afternoon and be like, oh my God, I know,
Yeah,
which we
yeah.
could do if we wanted. You know, it's not very fun, but,
Right.
or we could say, well, that's interesting.
Yeah. All right.
Huh. Let's try up here and find out what happens. Yes.
I just wanna say very quickly, the way I'm thinking about it is seasons.
Is
If I
fine.
was to get stuck in summer all the time, like that wouldn't be a healthy thing for me. I'm just thinking that, you know, it moves, it has to move,
Yeah,
like
it's
chi,
colors of the
like energy,
rainbow,
like
yeah.
seasons, like, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and people have preferences. I don't like these feelings, I want those feelings, but
Right.
then they lose as part of their spectrum.
Mm.
So yeah, it's not better or
Interesting.
worse, it's simply, and even putting words to them is sort of weird. Because it could just be this. But we call them
Yeah, if we didn't
things.
put words to it.
If we didn't word, if we just were an animal, a mammal without language, we'd just be like, oh, I feel pulled in. Well, of course, it wouldn't, they just would feel pulled in. Or I feel more energized. That's all there is. There isn't anything else. We impose all the rest of this.
Julie, that's brilliant.
Oh, well, thank you.
That's brilliant. No, it makes it so
It is,
easy.
yeah.
Like, that's so true.
Which is just a natural
It's just,
state of being.
it's like breathing, it's like.
That's not breathing.
I wonder though, cause like Jasper, you know, cause he's sick
Yes,
at doggy daycare,
yes.
he's been much more growly and
Yeah.
snappy at the other
Yeah,
dogs.
stay away from me. I don't want you to touch me.
Yeah, so so it isn't that he's actually angry, he's just,
Just,
yeah.
it's protective, yeah. Got survival brain. Survival brain is a function. Now let's talk about it. Now this is dense stuff and I know it, so, but it's such great stuff. So, see if you can hang in there with me.
It's fun to see.
Well, I love this. Well, the other thing, yeah, reactive brain, cognitively disabled. We all are. We're in dumb brain. And, immediate identification of threat. This is useful, well, for all of us, but for couples, because 1 second ago, you were my beloved, and now you are my enemy. And that's how our brains work. It's one of the first things that we code for. Friend, foe, friend, foe. And while everything's fine, it's like, oh, I love you, and then, but now,
So
you must
messed
go!
It's so messed up.
It's so messed up,
So
but it's what
messed
your
up.
brain is supposed to do. It's supposed to say, nope, enemy. So when you're with people, when they go into, like this happened earlier, I think yesterday, and they're like sitting next to each other, and clearly they were coding each other as enemy.
Mm-hmm.
So then how in the world do you get that to shift? So it's kind of interesting to see, like, here's a basic thing to know, that think mammalian. Think mammalian, especially with relationship issues, which is everything. Think mammalian. Now mammals start to relax their nervous system with skin-to-skin contact. So skip all the damn talking.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was trying to talk yesterday. Talk, and I tried to do this, and I'm trying, and clearly I've failed it, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you're very smart, but stop talking. Just try to do this and find the other person. Because your body will start to relax your nervous system, and you can skip all the processing.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I actually said these were two people that one had gone away for a while and they were having trouble with the transition. I said, I think you need to go home and smell her. You can try it now, but they were little, didn't really want to. But if you could smell her, like, oh, right, I remember you, like all the pheromones, right? Just very mammalian. This, like, let your nervous system relax, because what's going to do then is just naturally, this is our natural state, you all.
Yeah. One of our counselors at school had.
Well, as I want to emphasize that one, oh, poor Lenny. I get excited. Oh.
And then I spit on.
You didn't do anything wrong. I'm asking you to pause, because I want to emphasize that point. Because- Yeah, which one? There's so many.
No, I forgot what you said.
This
So
is our
funny.
natural state.
Okay.
It is our natural state to be in creative brain. Emphasize, emphasize. Most of us don't know that. I didn't know that. I thought my natural state was somewhere in here. I just thought, oh, that's Julie's state. That's just who I am and how I always will be, and oh well, I'll just have to deal with it. No, I was just stuck. But if we're in balance, Ayurveda says if we're in balance, we are in joy.
Mhm.
So if we're not in joy, we're not in balance. So put that in your brain somewhere and smoke it. Like, as therapists, if somebody walks in and they are not in joy, they are out of balance. That's what is. So help them come back into balance, because they will naturally rise up. I should ask Lenny what she
Okay.
was wanting to, before I cut her off.
Oh, I was just going to say that one of my teachers at school was telling us about a couple that he was having a hard time with, and so finally he just asked them to choose from a list of grooming behaviors. And so
it's kind of like picking up gnats and stuff. Yeah.
And so they chose hair brushing.
No.
And
What a
he
great idea.
was brushing, the husband was brushing his wife's hair, and I guess he just they both just started sobbing and had a total breakthrough.
Very sweet.
That's beautiful. I'll remember that one, yeah.
Lots of this, like, not beautiful. But you know, this whole thing about being in joy, which I don't disagree with at all. But like, there's this thing that comes out at Europa, among other places, that it's kind of like, it feels like it's this, like, we are privileged enough to have this view. Kind of like this whole, I don't know, like we're white privileged people.
So only white privileged people get to feel joyful?
No, but that, like, there's suffering in the world, and we're just kind of trying to find this way to, like, deal with it.
Oh.
I don't agree with it, but it comes out, and I'm curious how you deal with that, if you even get that.
Well, we all have this. Every single one of us. You have every single point here. I have every single point in me. So what if I get to love me for all of it? Especially this stuff here. Ooh, that's harder. I get to love me for all of it. And no, it's not someone's privilege to have joy. Certainly, I totally am grateful for the privilege of safety in Boulder. Like, I feel, right? That to me is a privilege. And meanwhile, anybody see the movie Happy?
Mhm.
It starts with this tuk-tuk, what do they call it? Tuk-tuk driver.
A tuk-tuk driver.
Tuk-tuk driver, yeah, in Calcutta.
Yeah.
And he's talking about how happy he is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I also don't mean to overemphasize, oh, joy, 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 joy is the best. Well,
Yeah.
I enjoy joy, but just like Nicole said, like, I totally want to go in sometimes.
Yeah, of course.
Like, to feel that, and feel this stuff, and I feel the push, and that feels good in my body, but I like that contrast. So I don't want to like, this is the good stuff, and this is the bad stuff.
But
To love it all and understand that this is being human, every single point here. Did I answer your question? It seems like I
yeah,
missed
no,
one
it's
piece of
just
it.
like when you said it, it just brought up this thing. Like, I know at one point I decided consciously that I could help the world better if I was happy, which I actually do think. Like, I don't think that me being, I don't mean ignoring all the pain in the world, but that, like, me actually living a happy life was gonna make me a better person if I didn't. But there's like, there's just like, I don't know, that comes out, that kind of conflict about, like, what about the suffering?
So we will take a break in a moment, and I will bring back something from David Hawkins that will actually speak directly to that. So let's, after Meg's question.
Did you suggest that you can, you said something, and I was wondering if you were suggesting that people can, by staying in some kind of state for a long period of time, you can adjust your threshold. I don't know, you suggested something.
Oh, to add your
That, like, some
muscle.
people, did anybody else, I can't remember exactly what you said, so I was I was wondering if you were suggesting that some people get to some kind of point where they are, like, you've been in despair and sadness for so long that peace is inaccessible? You're not suggesting that, right?
No,
Okay.
I'm not suggesting that.
Okay, I just
Um,
wanted to
I
clarify.
will just throw in a few thoughts, which is Hawkins' idea is we all come in at a different level of consciousness.
Sure.
That's interesting. That makes the world make a little more sense to understand, and we all are existing at different levels, and at any given moment, right, we're all like going this direction.
Mhm.
So that if we're trying to make sense about everybody should be, well, we're all over the place.
But by coming in at he means our mean level of consciousness is something?
Yes.
Even though we're going like this?
Yes.
Yeah.
That we are born
I think that.
into, say somebody, he adds numbers to this,
Hmm.
0 to 1,000, this is 200, that someone could be born at like 52, right up in here. No, 52 is right down here actually. So coming in at 52, and that most of us die about 1 to 2 points different from how we were born.
Whoa.
So like a soul contract, and we're trying to like.
Yeah. So getting conscious is about actually being able to, maybe, unless you don't want to.
Go more than two.
To go more than two. To say, well, wait a second, I was here, but I like it, well, for sure, I was here for a long time. I like it better here. I'd like to expand my abilities and also my ability to, just kind of, that's the upper limit stuff, to expand into and expand more and more out into my own possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's such an interesting.
Yes, sure.
So, you said the creative brain is our natural state,
Yes.
but then you just said that we're born all the way down there.
No. What I mean is different people are born at different levels of consciousness. Somebody might be born here.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Because the way I think about it is maybe you're born in the top or in the neutral, and then the bottom emotions are like kind of put on you from your environment.
Learned.
So
Learn
you
that.
can decide. I'm talking about what Hawkins believes.
Oh, okay.
So you can read his book. He uses muscle testing to verify what he believes. And so
Yeah,
you can
Julie, let's
decide.
learn muscle testing.
Is he
You wanna
still?
learn muscle
Yeah, I
testing?
do.
Nick, did you do that?
Oh, sure, sure, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is he still alive?
No, he died
Oh,
a
it's there.
couple of years ago. So let's take 5 and come back, but literally 5, because I really want to get to this next piece.
How long are we going for?
Until 6.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah,
good for you?
yeah, I think it's
Kind
cool.
of coffee,
Yeah,
enjoying
gosh.
the material.
Burning question. Oh, I forgot my
Planner.
This meeting? Yes.
Gotta stand up for a little minute.
No, how can you be
No,
born
you
in
do not.
despair?
I believe that.
Monica did not get
Yeah, it's
anything
kind of
from
like
you.
this, there's this thing I found on reincarnation and how like we come, our spirits, how our spirits come in. And it makes, it's kind of like what she was just saying.
November 3rd.
November 3rd.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think I actually. I don't think
Do you want to see a Halloween doll?
Yes.
All right, muscle testing training program.
This dog is so humiliated.
Oh, that's.
Poor dog. Martha. love the hairy slippers.
Oh,
I have a burning
So
question.
cute.
Burning,
It's
this is a good
so
time.
bad.
It's called
Is
the
it?
International
Well, people will miss it,
Kinesiology.
but we'll have to
Okay.
tell them that.
Oh, wow.
But I
So
think
good.
it's online.
Well, I'm just thinking about the nervous
Anyway, I'll
system.
send it to you.
And I'm
Okay.
thinking about the PACT model,
Uh-huh.
and I'm thinking about people that auto-regulate, that tend to be more islandy, like they go to their addictions or things that they don't need another person
Then
to
you are dealing with
regulate.
healthcare too, right?
And then there's people that actually
If you need a
are
resource, I'm
external
like, I hooked up
regulators.
with some guys in
This is
the
just
county
based on
that
this
are
model.
just
Sure.
phenomenal.
And so in my mind, I'm
They
trying
do,
to figure
like
out
they
with
can,
couples.
they know the, they
So
know
that's
the
what I wanna work
answer.
with couples.
Great.
Are those new
How does
classes?
No, I
that
just
work
wear it.
if
They look
someone
great.
tends to go toward auto-regulation,
Yeah,
which
they're
is
just-
avoiding
they're
I
just
do.
contact?
going the extra mile.
Where the other
'Cause-
person, the wave personality,
I mean, I
tends
guess
to
I have a
go
choice of
towards
maybe going off
contact.
one of my medications that's very
Since I
really,
don't know
really
the model, but
expensive,
I.
like $100 a bottle if I don't have
Does work.
insurance.
I would,
Or-
Did you shop
for
around
me,
the best price on that thing?
what, and clearly
Well,
that
they
comes
don't
up over and
really
over,
make-
but I would
oh.
say what's underneath that,
I
those
guess
are
I don't
learned
have a lot
responses.
of options,
The
but
person that goes away
I
from
could-
contact has
it
taught
might be like
themselves
the
to go
time where I
away from
attempt.
contact.
I
That
don't know
it
if I can
isn't
do it
their
longer.
basic
I will
instinct.
attempt to go off my
Oh,
medication.
And so to learn
Alright.
to come
I
towards,
started shopping around for any kind
like,
of.
that is our basic
Do you know that you can
instinct.
shop around and go
Okay.
from like,
That's what I would
you
do.
know,
Okay.
one
And so
store,
really just
Bartels,
like making
you know,
the physical
$234 for a
start
bottle, and Costco
slowly,
is 20.
like in the
No,
therapy
I didn't
room,
know
it's
that.
like
Totally
maybe
have
looking
shop.
at
Maybe
each
we
other's
could like
hands.
get
Yeah.
some tea or coffee.
Starting
and
very
all.
gently.
Yeah, not just.
I had no idea.
That's usually a pretty good
I would do it.
source
I usually
for
do it.
pharmacy
Yeah.
because of their power to buy in bulk.
And Walmart.
And I have,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just like years of.
I should,
And I might have to go on
the basic.
medication. Well, I don't have a job like that. I actually $130,000 a year.
Most people are like, well, I'm mad at you, I'm mad at you. What's underneath that is.
So if I'm not bringing in income, then that's his income.
In this paradigm, I move away because I'm mad at you. Well, but underneath that, I'm scared and I'm not generating.
So would a two-income household under 30,000? Or under?
Things that you know.
No.
Oh, per year.
Under 30.
They auto-regulate, because they didn't have caregivers that showed up.
What
Yeah, I'm learning a lot.
All right, yeah, I do need a resource because I just like got the letter and then saw, I haven't looked at it this morning because I'm a little overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I won't get a subsidy.
Try that, what's that feel like?
Okay.
Usually there's a hump
Okay,
of,
and
oh,
how
this is too scary,
Yeah.
I don't like this, but then stay with it.
Wait, what happened this morning? I thought Trump said no one gets subsidies
Yeah,
anymore.
what happened, so
Okay,
sorry.
awesome, thank you.
Sure.
So you'll get tax subsidy, but you may not get the health insurance company will use on the calendar? The subsidy from
Nope.
from the
That
federal
is
government.
one of the.
I've not managed to pluck it out of the universe. It hasn't gone, I keep thinking like a volcano, it's just gonna go, but it hasn't, on my phone either.
Really?
Yeah.
So did you go,
No.
And I said,
Like,
parking
a
lot.
lot of it would be.
So first I lost my
And
calendar.
that was something about
It's not in the gut, right?
So we have a public
We've
right?
gone through that, but I was trying to, I can't promise it.
By 2:30.
Okay, come on back.
They don't require everyone to go.
Like, I'm up on this girl.
Yeah.
So for me, it was more
All right.
flexibility.
Because I'm into my, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rallying me into appreciation.
At some point. So to Kim's point, here's what Hawkins says. One individual at peace, he calls it level 700, there's more above that, up to 1,000 on his map. One individual at level 700 counterbalances 70 million individuals
Oh my God.
who are below the line.
That's amazing.
In order to what?
To not
In the
just
consciousness
self-destruct
of the-
ourselves as a species,
Okay.
and also eventually to help us all
Yes, help
evolve
everybody
up,
come up, yeah, I believe that.
which is the direction we're going.
Yes.
As a species, we used to be, when Jesus was walking around, we were about in here. And then after 2012, we made it up here. So we've been moving up.
All right.
as a species.
So where are we,
How
are
do
we
you
going
really-
down right now?
Good question.
Yeah.
I don't know, you'll have to muscle test on it.
Well, it's hard to say, right, because it's like both things are.
Yeah, both things are
Both things
happening.
are
I
happening.
actually, my experience is that we are going way
Well,
bigger.
Don Beck, do you know him?
Well, is this gonna take us off track, cause
Okay, yes.
okay, then, hold those,
He supports the both is true thing.
okay, great. One individual at Joy counterbalances 10 million. Ooh. One individual who can hold love counterbalances 750,000. All right? So,
What page is that on?
it's on page 282. So yeah, does it matter? It matters. Be an activist, choose love, that's where it's at.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's
I would
so
like a
bad.
bumper sticker that said that.
It's right up there.
Do you have a bumper sticker?
I finally made one.
You do?
Let's do it.
So
I know,
Guys selling don't even know it.
That's right, they're only $100. You can take one. Okay, so here's the thing. I want to get to diagnosis because I know y'all, I'm thinking y'all are learning this. You learning diagnosis?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Next
Okay,
semester.
good, this will prepare you. If you get this out, will you pull that for me?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's that white thing.
You have to push the white thing.
So look at the second page. Well, actually, it's the back of your first page because I was trying to through paper. Specific reactive brain function. Doesn't that sound so like dry? Sounds dry to me. Anyway, see all these states?
Mm-hmm.
Anger, fear, sadness, right? The big three. But we've got other things. Pride, mobilized anger. Despair, immobilized sadness. Like it's the same thing, they're just used a little bit differently. Here's what I think. I think our species developed all of these things in order to support hierarchy. Because if I'm up in pride, that's right, because that's just how it is. And I can't even believe, going down to anger, contempt, let's use some great hierarchical techniques that have been proven over and over in our culture recently. What the hell were you thinking?
What do you mean, what the hell am I thinking?
Like, I can't even believe you did that, and that is
Ah!
sad.
Why are you even talking to me this way? What?
Right, so now you're trying to fight with me, but what is going to happen is I'm going to out alpha you. Because actually I have power and control over you to the point that I can sexually assault women for decades and nobody's going to say a word. People knew about it. Nobody said a word. People were making jokes about it. But because I have power and control, I'm going to make you do what I want you to do, and you're going to do it, because what I've done is I've generated this energy, which is going to eventually get you to submit. That all of these energies, the only thing that's really going on is I've gotten you to collapse yourself. So I don't have my little dinosaurs. We do get my dinosaurs, thank you.
Oh, good.
That all this is, we call them all these things, but the point of them is to maintain hierarchy. Now, hierarchy isn't a bad thing. After 9/11, we looked, this is a long time ago, but to George Bush, he said, here's what's going on. Right, this is what we need to do.
Well,
But
look
there
at
was a
Puerto
moment of
Rico.
relief that somebody's in charge. This is all this chaos. Right, if something happens, you're in the middle of a crowd, you want somebody to say, this is what we're gonna do now. Thank you very much. So hierarchy isn't a bad thing, it's how we got here. We're pack animals. Hierarchy works in emergencies. In urgent situations. It's helpful for me to be able to say, do this, and for you to say, okay. That make sense?
Mhm.
Do this, now you're going to comply with me, you're going to do what I tell you to do, right? If we're in the military, good idea, it's clear, in emergencies. But notice how much of the time your life is not an emergency. But this is what's patterned in our bodies, over and over and over. So in going to couples work again, but again, any relationship, what's patterned is this. So we start off, it's all great, we're in love, la la la, isn't it great? And then I say, but Kim, I think you bounced the check,
Right.
right? And
That's
my
it.
template of parent comes forward,
So
because
you
I feel
always
out of
judge me.
control.
You always judge me, and why aren't you giving me any money to support me? When you know I don't have any money.
Of course you don't have any money. When are you gonna get a free job that pays?
That's what I'm trying to do.
Well, try harder.
I
Right?
have not actually had this argument, but I certainly could.
But you could, because any of us can, because we all have it in us.
Right.
So then relationship devolves into that. Something that's supposed to be for emergencies becomes, well, I'm in reactive brain, so it is an emergency, because I just opened the bill, I can't
Right.
believe you spent that much money. It's an emergency in my body. I just went into reactive brain. So I'm gonna do the thing I do in emergencies. And if I'm in the alpha tendency, that's what I'm gonna do.
So do you think we create emergencies to make this whole thing keep going?
I do,
Like,
Mhm.
because that's just how life is.
like the man who we're trying not to name.
And there's
Yeah.
gotta be some.
Oh yeah, oh my God, notice what he's doing.
All
That's
the time.
totally,
Oh, wow.
that's
Yeah.
Every
totally
day,
a
every
job.
day.
Yeah.
He's a master at it. I mean, let's learn from it.
Yeah.
He's a master at it. Keep us, and then what happens? We're, as a species, we orient to, okay, what should we do then? Because we're all like, emergency, emergency.
I'm surprised he's still alive. I'm surprised
I
someone
know,
hasn't
he's sitting in
murdered
those
him.
chemicals, like,
We're waiting.
Well, but we still, that's where your point was so good, because even if we aren't like going, oh, you're the great one, which we do, we're still in his state.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, yeah,
But that's also,
yeah.
it's also due to the, I don't know if you noticed, but the certain kind of languaging that he's using
Yeah.
consistently over and over and over again to almost, to put, to give the illusion that we're all in survival mode all
Yeah.
the time.
all the time.
And that he's,
Oh.
Yeah.
and he's
Right.
higher
Yeah.
above us.
We're totally in a trance. I mean, of course, not always, right? But when we go there, and when we're sort of frozen in it, we're just in the trance with him.
Mhm. That's right.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I was like, one
Isn't that
morning
cool?
I was doing Facebook stupidly, and I went for a walk with Jasper, and I was like really in a state, because it was a bad day for Trump, seriously bad. But right before I went, there was this song, we are all welcome here, it's a Path of Love, so it's really sweet. And I actually felt myself move out of the state, but then I realized how much I'd been in the state, like seriously.
Yeah, and it uses up energy, it's bad for you, it's stress chemicals. Yeah,
Right.
and it's
He's a
brilliant.
master.
It's really brilliant, because we are caught in it collectively. But we don't have to be, it's just somebody's story.
They're like little fishies swimming out of the holes in the net.
Yeah, I
Yes.
like that.
Mhm.
That's what, little swim, little fishy.
Oh, it's so counterintuitive though, in a way. Like it is, like we are used to doing this. Trump does that and we
Yeah.
react.
So here's another
Call and
Hawkinsism.
response.
75% of all of us in the species lives in reactive brain.
But how much
How
percent
much
of the time?
yeah, what qualifies
yeah.
as living?
Basically, that is their
That's the
reality.
word, okay.
Because it's survival brain. Think about much of the planet is still in survival. So that's a lot of us. No wonder we need guts.
So that explains like autoimmune stuff, and
I'm sorry.
that explains why maybe we're having like so many issues with like health.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Healthy rebuilding.
Can I ask
Soon
one?
you're not gonna need that.
Oh wait,
damn
Diane
health
had a
insurance.
question
Well,
before I did.
so just kind of going back to being a therapist,
Good.
how much of your time are you doing psychoeducation? And how much of your time are you processing?
well, something made you ask, like, what's the situation you're imagining?
I'm just really interested in the education piece of helping, like, giving people a context to move, to change, instead of just
Yeah.
like my therapy context is like, let's just talk this thing to death, let's just talk and talk. And,
Yeah.
and there's some that has been helpful.
Yeah, good.
But it's just like, let's talk about the map
Yeah.
and where we're going, the map, you
Where
are
am I and
here,
where do I wanna go?
and and where you want to go and how to get there, so that I could take responsibility as a client for navigating my healing, or
Yeah.
you know, for being responsible on a day-to-day basis, rather than, well, I just have to wait until I get to my therapist to like
Yeah.
deal with this stuff.
Absolutely. So I teach this quite a lot. I mean, like, almost always.
Mhm.
People know about the map, they leave with the map in their hands so they can start to see where they are on the map. Yeah, absolutely, my whole thing is to say, where do you wanna be? Okay, here you are, where do you wanna be? If I'm in fear and I wanna be in shame, okay, you know, I get to choose, but to imagine being on an elevator, big department store elevator, and I get to get on the elevator, where do I wanna go? Where am I right now? I'm on the shame floor, going up into fear, going up into love, maybe come down, but to understand I'm the one punching the buttons.
Right. And so it just seems like this whole thing that you're doing is education, so that people can navigate their own terrain.
That's right, absolutely. I am not.
And I love that.
Because otherwise, look what I'm doing. I'm the alpha, asking you to submit.
Right?
Yeah.
So notice how this starts to overlap with the triangle. Right, I'm the hero. I'm the villain, telling you what to do, you poor thing.
Yeah.
And then I think, why are you still depressed? Why are you still always anxious? Let's talk about it. Which then, of course, is creating the trance. Well, I'll tell you how I was so anxious yesterday when I was on the bus. Okay, let's talk about that. Right, so we're just staying, I'm helping you hypnotize yourself into that same state.
And you also have a community for it as well, because it seems like there's something about community and something, as humans needing community to be living in that higher, above the line space as well. And humans and relationship and healing and, yeah, community. I don't know if that's true.
BC3.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
This is what the BC3 is for. When I walk in the door, I'm already aware of this, I'm just thinking about it, I see the tools, I think, oh yeah, where am I, right? Awareness supports me. If I start complaining, somebody probably will say, Julie, how do you really feel, right? So, yeah.
But like when I was upset about Jasper, you didn't say, where do you want to be on the map, Kim?
Because starting with what's true is a place to start, what's true. Like letting yourself put your full awareness on where are you, and then you can decide to shift. But if you haven't even had a chance to feel what you're really feeling,
Right.
I mean, that's half of this. It's not, it's a terrible image, but this is not about putting whipped cream on shit.
Right, no, exactly.
This is not about, no, everything's fine, no, I love Jasper, he's all good, we're all just healing. That's not what's true in your body. That's what SEW is for, is to say what's really true. Oh, this.
So it was the emotional content, not the story content.
Yeah.
Right.
That was the difference, like what you were saying, the process. That's just, it's not even about the real issue.
Yeah.
But it is in that interface where you can actually control. You've got some effect and impact on your state where the sensations are happening.
Yeah.
That's how you can shift, how you can start to shift.
You said emotional content, not.
Not the story content.
Story. Feelings move.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
It might be more like a devil's advocate.
Good.
What if you meet a client and is like, no, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in the stupid map. Yeah, somebody came in and I was, it was a couple, and she said, that is so superficial. And I was like, oh. I really felt sad and scared. I mean, she was doing an alpha move is what she did. It was very effective, and now I can see that that happens.
Makes so much sense.
Yeah, it was great. and it worked, and I haven't brought this out because I'm scared of her, of doing that again. Yeah, she's good at it. And so what would I do? Well, with that situation, kind of building relationship, so that I have a sense that I can influence through relationship, because I couldn't influence without the relationship.
And how would you start there? Because when she's or they are in a pride mode, they want to stay there, and they don't want to. They don't want you to come to either your level or go above that, and they will try all tactics unconsciously or consciously to keep you down there. I'm just curious.
Well, but there's 2 of us, or 3 of us. So what I was doing, once I had noticed what was happening for me, was breathing and finding my way back up here. Because now I'm in a much more expanded state. This is more powerful than this. So what I'm trying not to do is get into it with her. Not that I don't, but that was what I was trying to do. So because now we're gonna be in force. You know, but really, you should check this out. This is great. What's the matter? Trying not to do that. Or the other thing is like, oh my God, maybe you're right.
Yeah.
But to find my way back up here, now I'm the one shifting the whole experience, at least for myself and potentially for her.
That makes a lot of sense.
And then we can all kind of relax a little bit, and then hopefully, eventually the question will be, is she willing to shift?
Is she willing to shift? Yes.
Now, at some point, if she's like, no, then I'm not the person for her.
And also, if she says, I don't have a choice. You think that I have a choice, but I don't have a choice. I have depression. I have addiction. I don't have a choice.
Great.
I know the biochemistry. I know blah 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 blah.
Right, I know.
I don't have a choice.
Yes.
This is a
I know it all.
great
You're very
question.
smart. Yeah. Right, you could show me I'd probably say, yeah, I guess you do. Bravo. And what are your sensations?
So you would just go straight to there.
Yeah, you know, I'm not gonna argue with that, because now I'm in this. I go, way to go, I probably have some things to learn from you about addiction, I'm glad. I don't have to argue with you about it, but are you willing to notice your sensations? Now, generally people, I can't remember a person that said no. I have plenty of people said, I don't know what you're talking about, or I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
But see what this has going for it is people feel so much better.
Yeah.
Thank goodness, this is a good design. Because this feels like crappy, this feels like crap. This is crappy land, happy land, like it's, so people know that, and it starts to just draw them in that direction. If I can stay up here, stay in my own anchored place.
That was helpful. Thank you.
And I moved Julie that the story I've just made up is that the top part is individual. Like, creative brain is all you. It's not dependent on anybody else, where everything below the line is totally dependent on, there is, like in that interaction you were just talking about, it's dependent on having someone else to resist against.
To fight with, yeah. That's right, so if I keep the tug of war going, yeah,
So it might
you
seem
can
like
just
you
stay
can't
in
go above
there.
pride,
Yeah.
if they're keeping the alpha, but the reality is that you always have the choice to go above.
Yeah, I can hang out there, I don't have to go into hierarchy.
Yeah, right, and this isn't hierarchy necessarily, and above the line is.
Yeah, this is,
Um,
here we go. Power,
That's helpful.
get
And
my
I
power
think
back.
the other thing is, like, I had an experience today with a client when they were really in their story, and so it moved from story to story to story, and going back to so, like, body sensation, and finally it was like I could see the pop out of the story, and then really coming to the core issue, but allowing space for the stories to be told. Like, it didn't have to look a certain way.
You didn't have to resist
No,
that.
I was like, okay, here we go again in my own brain, and almost wanting to be induced in the triangle, because I was watching that. I was like, oh, kind of like, oh yeah, and I'm like, oh, stay here, you know. So it was really interesting how, yeah. So it's just like the body, the whole time.
Body.
But Julie, there are clients that are so traumatized that they will not go into their body. Or if they do, the reaction can be extreme. So I'm wondering
Let me
about
just try that out. Well, okay, that's your story, and I believe you that you've had that experience. I don't know if it's true though. sounds like a scary story, like the body is a big scary place.
I'm thinking of my clients that were autistic.
Oh, okay, great. Oh, great. And anyway, you connect that to trauma. Well, yeah, so following someone and being with them and being gentle with all of this, yeah, with awareness and what actually happens when they go in there. Anyway, I'm having different stories, but yeah. So how do you do that? Is that your question?
That's my question.
Yeah.
There's, like, how do you, kind of what we just talked about on break, couples that, you know, someone's auto-regulating, they're disconnecting physically. So starting very small with like, okay, here's the hand, touching each other's hand. And so working with someone that, you know, it can show up in a lot of ways, addiction, disconnecting from feelings for 20 years or something from your body, or autism, or someone that's like very intellectual and they don't even know, like when you tell them, go into your body, or they're breathing right here.
Sure.
Like,
Well, that's the whole first part of this, however long that takes, is helping somebody learn how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean sensation? Oh, is your mouth dry? Do you need a drink of water? Right, the very basic. Are you hungry? How do you know you're hungry? So the basic getting friendly with your sensations, and how do you even do that? How does somebody learn how to do that? Because we've taught ourselves not to do that.
Mm-hmm.
okay. So starting with just a basic need, like
Well,
water or
Yeah, the stuff that most of us know, are we thirsty or not?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and then, because people make this into some big, giant thing, emotions, oh my God, it's there, It's just as simple as, are you thirsty? It's not more complicated, and to really reassure people about that.
Okay.
And then there are techniques with kids with or people with autism that have been really, really helpful, and I'm happy that's one of my specialties, I'm happy to talk about that involves drawing.
Thank you.
So, this handout, I haven't ever listened to all this. I'm not gonna go through every state, but I'm gonna pick one. Let's pick, what do I wanna pick? I wanna pick despair. One of my faves.
That's a good one. Do you experience a lot of people in despair in your practice?
Well, I experience a lot of people that say, I'm depressed.
Okay.
So starting to hook these up, the states up with diagnoses.
Mhm.
That's where I'm going here.
Okay.
That people say, I'm depressed. Well, what does that mean? That's interesting.
They're
I'm
immobilized,
anxious.
for sure.
Pardon me?
They're immobilized, for sure.
Well, it could. So you can start right away. Notice, oh, immobilization.
Yeah.
In the face of an alpha, to immobilize in the face of all this mobilized aggression is a good idea. Oh, you mean it could be relational? Depression is relational? Uh-huh. Wait a second, I thought it was a biochemical blah, 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 blah. Well, you know, who knows? But right away, if somebody walks into my office and they're saying, oh, I'm really depressed, I want to know who's the alpha.
Yep.
Because there's somebody out there. Or maybe it's in the introductory.
Okay, I was gonna ask that. Can it be inside of themselves? Does
Absolutely.
it have to be an external
Absolutely.
person?
Yeah,
Okay.
still yelling at them.
Okay.
But they're likely in relation in some way still
Yeah.
to that person. And in a couple, right, there's one person who is often just feels really terrible and they can't get their shit together. And this person's like, rah, rah, rah. I have one couple. This person had a psychotic break. This person's like, and we gotta do something, and we gotta go, we gotta go to the psychiatrist, what are medications, come on, we gotta do, right? So way, very mobilized. Yeah, but I don't really know what to do. Now, in a couple, this becomes intolerable for this person. So this person will need to do something to get out of this. Generally, it will be to find this person. Oh, I feel alive when I'm around you.
But then what I want this person to turn into the same.
Well, kind of, yeah, then we gotta do that part. Yeah, or this person will need to have an addiction or something to help them feel better, or a secret life, whole secret thing going on. Something to get, because this is intolerable for people. nobody likes this either, although it feels more in control to be in this, the pride, anger stuff. But this stuff, where people submit, go into a submissive posture, and generally there's somebody that they grew up with, a parent, an older sibling, who it was really a bad idea to be in response to, in reaction. Instead, it's better to, if you're yelling at me and I'm 2 feet tall and you're 6 feet tall, better that I do this than I do this. I hate your guts and I'm gonna kick you in the shin because you're gonna kill me. I mean, that's what my body thinks.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole state, this immobilized state that is part of sadness, despair, well, it's frozen fear, all of this stuff, this whole immobilization spectrum is in response to, it's a relational issue.
I have so many questions about that.
I bet you do. That's a whole semester right there.
Yeah.
So I got 2 main questions. One, what if that person is not in a romantic relationship of any kind? And then, like, maybe later in life, not as like a youth person, because obviously the parent is, that's obvious. So like later in life, not in a relationship, and that's happened, that's their experience. And then in a relationship, could the alpha or the green dinosaur not be the other partner, but another person in their life?
The boss,
Yep.
Okay.
their kid that they've always been afraid of, their mother that's still in their head, and their right? Sure, absolutely.
So that
Absolutely.
would apply then for the person who's not in a relationship later in life. Okay.
Yes.
Question too. So could like in a lot of other cultures, and I don't know if Robbie has any experience of this, an above the line way to immobilize it, like people who have psychotic breaks often are then trained, are interviewed and trained to be shamans because it's thought of as a potential gift. And so that could be a potential above the line
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
if,
just said.
I'm being very declarative here.
Yeah.
And so as you're learning about diagnosis, you're gonna have to decide, mix and match and figure it out for yourself. But if you don't,
But it could
if you
be
don't know
way
about
too-
this, people are way stuck in despair, in anxiety, in depression, in their guilt. I'm so guilty all the time, in their shame, I hate myself. You know, Brene Brown, she's incredible, she's amazing theorist and storyteller. But I don't really like her paradigm about shame because it's as if it's a thing. I don't think it's a thing. I think it's an energy state that people get stuck in. And they don't have to. And if they started mobilizing their fear and their anger and sadness,
Yeah.
if they got out of this posture, there's Amy Cuddy's power pose, that already they're shifting, the energy's gonna move completely different. Anyway, it's gonna be different, and and then they're gonna have a different experience. They might be enraged, probably,
Mm-hmm.
probably. Right? They might be like, whoa, I'd rather be this than this, because this is scaring the shit out of me.
Yeah.
But it's such a huge difference, because otherwise shame, I mean, I love her too, but it's interesting because it's like a whole story.
Yeah, it's a whole story that goes on, and
Yeah.
it's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
But it gets people stuck. And gets women stuck, a lot of women.
Yes.
And this is very
Totally.
familiar for women to do this. We know how to submit. Not that it's a bad thing, but to understand that's what's going on in the hierarchy, in the patriarchy, and it's effective. But just don't get confused that that's what's true about you versus in response to what's going on around